Ryan, you got a good barking, buddy. Class, pay attention. Folks, a little quick fun. The mud bee is filling in the outlet. She just came out of the top one and went in there. So I am going to disconnect the circuit. Or not disconnect the circuit. I'm just going to turn the power off. But here's a good question for all the electrical savvies. And this is a good question. And it's actually an explanation of the difference and what they should be allowed to do. Grounding. The difference between, an easy way to explain the difference between the protecting the source. We'll call it the source. Keep it easy. We're going to use terms like water and the easy stuff to understand. In an arc fault, what would be the difference than a ground fault protection? I don't know why she's going in the bottom one, because she plugged it off already. But she's heading to the top ground in a second. Oh, she's scraping a little goodies off of there. But the difference between ground fault and arc fault is, let's just start with the arc fault and get it out of the way. This will clarify everything for all the folks that are just like, arc fault says this, that this, and this. Let's just say you have a carpet in the living room and there's a lot of furniture. We'll use high heels and furniture feet for the example. And say you wanted the lamp on the other side of the room. Did that bee just go in the top one and disappear into the grounding box? Well, if you decide to string that, your little 2-wire lamp cord under a carpet and its travel path, and there's only 2 wires, a hot and a ground, plus or minus. Let's just say if you have a bunch of high heel walkers that come along and step on that, as soon as those 2 penetrate and it goes to ground, it'll create an arc. And that's what the fault senses. The arc. And it's very helpful nowadays, which wasn't a long time ago. The difference between ground fault can be explained a couple of ways. Ground fault, let's just take the easiest way. I'm not going to explain it and be gruesome, but there's 2 different ways to explain it, and it does have to be with safety, which is life-saving. All of these things are. Because the carpet, the arc sits there and sizzles, it starts a fire, which would be similar to this right here. It can start a fire. And that's why you have ants that get into outlets and they start a fire. But say, if I repair a CNC motor, and it's a liquid-cooled motor, I already know that the safety, the ground fault would be the personal protection, not the arc of the motor protection. The personal protection of the user. So say fluid's going through that motor. So in order to, come on, boys, don't push me out of the way, boy. So in order to protect that liquid-cooled motor, and, that's why they, all the electric things now are brushless in the cars and all that fancy stuff, and you can get in all that weird stuff, but I'm not going to. See, Guido didn't get that. Guido didn't even care that the mud bee was right there. He'll usually swat at the bees, so he knows the difference between the mud bee and the honeybees. So as that CNC engine's running, oh, that's a different one. Awesome. So if the CNC begins to, anything that wears and tears and has separated components that are gaskets in between, the arc, the ground fault, well, it needs to be laid in within the motor winding. And once there becomes a problem with liquid, the liquid will reach that ground fault tab. We'll just call it a tab. The ground fault tab. Oh no. They're going to kick over that hive. I got to go get that. Well, let's just say the ground fault tab is at the motor. So the motor will shut down as soon as it senses that water that gets through the gaskets to the source, which is the motor. And the operator would be the human. So that's it, folks. If you did get any of that, that means you do understand arc fault and ground fault. And I know there's a lot more depth to it. I'm just yammering on and sharing that because the question now is, since there's mud bees in the outlet, it's just not a good thing. Because eventually it will cause a short. And then there will be problems. So folks, if you get anything out of this, great. But have a blessed day and enjoy and share some honeybee stuff and the electrical stuff. Be safe. Don't goof with electricity. It's very dangerous. It will zap you, whap you, any way you look at it. So cheers and respect to all the linemen right now. And I know if you've actually coming across or hearing some goof thing about grounding and all that, pay attention to it, folks. It's a real thing. Cheers.